Hi guys, it's Friday, so it's me trying to read some books over the weekend, which inevitably always fails and rolls into Monday. But I just finished Holly and all my stuff on the floor. I just finished Holly and I am ready to try to get this little stack down, okay? We are down to 7 books left for the rest of the year. And that seems, like a smaller number, except for the fact that it was supposed to be 10 of them. In yeah, that's not a lot for a month. Okay, so I'm down to some options here, okay? So we've got some sci-fi with a dystopian, a post-apocalyptic, and some space, and some space. So I think we're gonna go, and then we've got fantasy, fantasy, fantasy. Okay. Actually, I think so we're gonna skip the Left Hand of Darkness right now. It's lower on my list of want to reads. So we're gonna do the first chapter of the other 3. So I'm gonna take these upstairs with me, settle in on the couch, and check in with you after I read each chapter. Okay, so this doesn't have chapters, but I just read the first 10 pages. It's weird pacing and kind of rhythmic. It's going to be a fast read, I think, because I read roughly a page a minute, which is pretty quick for me. This is the way that, like, the margins are big. There's, like, lots of space in the font itself. The pacing is really weird. I'm not quite sure what's going on. I don't think I'm supposed to know what's going on. So this one is, how long are you? 224 pages. I might be able to finish this today, which would be wild if I could actually finish a book in a day. I'm intrigued, but I'm not sure. The pacing is weird, and I was up till 5 last night. And I'm a little rough. So I don't know if with the weird pacing it's going to be able to hold my attention, but it's a possibility. I do like the fact that I might be able to finish it in a day. It's all right. I honestly don't know. Let's see what the synopsis says. A children's Bible follows a group of 12 eerily mature children on a forced vacation with their families at a sprawling lakeside mansion. Contemptuous of their parents, the children decide to run away when a destructive storm descends on the summer estate, embarking on a dangerous foray into the apocalyptic chaos outside. Lydia Millet's prophetic and heartbreaking story of a generational divide offers a haunting vision of what awaits us at the far side of Revelation. So, it does have chapters. It's just a really long chapter. I think if I read the whole first chapter, I would have read 24 pages. So I just read the first 10 pages, so we'll stick with that. Okay, so I'm going to read the first 10 pages of Binti now. Okay, so I only read the first 8 of this one. It's biotech, which is interesting. It's a little slower read. It took me like 10 minutes to read the first 8 pages, which is actually pretty good for me, and especially considering how rough I feel. And I'm like craving a sushi bowl. So I'm gonna read the first 10 of Future Home Living Gods and go get myself some food after I clean up my kitchen from my breakfast, because it's been a day. So this is the trilogy. This is a bind up of all the books. So they are short novellas. So these are both good options so far. Like, I'm liking this one. I struggled a little bit with Who Fears Death this year, because of just some aspects of the main character's personality really grated on me wrong, or grated on me. But I liked the story overall. It's one of those weird 3.5s that I really liked, but it was still like a 3.5. So this has some of those same themes. We definitely are talking about racism, classism, colorism, and already in the first like 8 pages. The spaceships sound really cool. They're like living creatures, so that's cool. It has a line, but everything changes when jellyfish like Medusae attack. So that's on the synopsis on the back. I just got distracted because I was like, everything changes when the Fire Nation attacks. Words. Okay, so we're also going to a university. So we've got like a school setting that's going to happen in the first book. So leaning a little more towards this one, simply because I don't think today my brain can handle the lyrical rhythmic pattern of writing. I'm still scared of this one, guys, like, because this is a pregnancy thing, as you can tell from this. So I'm scared, but it's also short. I think that she's 267 pages. So some nice short options. All right, I'm gonna read the first little bit of this one, and then I'm gonna go get some lunch. This is another fast read too. I just read to the first break in the first chapter because I'm kind of a little bit smitten with it. The writing style is really good. The conversation we've already started. I'm just concerned about the pregnancy aspect of it because I struggle with those things. Like, I don't enjoy reading about them that much. But she's like writing a journal for her child. So I'm going to read the synopsis of this because I am unsure what's actually happening in this book. I've just seen this wrecked by a lot of people as if you liked Handmaid's Tale, you should read this because this is better. I have not read Handmaid's Tale. I have been encouraged to read it, but I was encouraged to read it during 2016 and 17, and I was like, nah, I can't, bro. And I still can't. Like, I don't know. So it was really funny because it was like a year-ish ago or something like that, I saw Reads with Rachel say that you should read this if you liked Handmaid's Tale. And then I was in my local bookstore and they had a little sign that was like, if you liked Handmaid's Tale, you should read this. And then I was in my library and they had a little sign that was like, if you liked Handmaid's Tale, you should read this. And I would have read it that day from the library, but they didn't have it. It was already checked out. So I thought that was funny. It was like all these things within like the same, it was wild. But it was within like a week or two of each other. So the synopsis. Wow, the original price of this book was $28.99 and I got it for $2 at my thrift store. I love my thrift store. Like, it does have a page that's really loose in the center, but evolution stops as mysteriously as it began. Pregnancy and childbearing quickly become issues of state security. 26-year-old Cedar, the adopted daughter of idealistic Minneapolis liberals, is as disturbed and uncertain as the rest of America, but for Cedar, this change is profound and deeply personal. She is 4 months pregnant. As Cedar travels north to find her Ojibwe family, ordinary life begins to disintegrate. Swelling panic creates warring government, corporate, and religious fractions. In a mall parking lot, Cedar witnesses a pregnant woman wrenched from her family under a new law. As she evades capture, Cedar also experiences a fraught love with her baby's father, who tries to hide her. An unexpected dystopian thriller from a writer of startling originality, Future Home of the Living God is also a moving meditation on female agency, love, self-determination, biology, and natural rights. So, Children of Men as well, maybe? Which is a movie my friend loaned me and was like, watch this movie. And I was like, ugh. And it was around the same time everyone was trying to get me to read or watch Handmaid's Tale. And I was like, I can't do more stuff about pregnancy and about it just being like, oh, this woman is important because she has a child. Like, and it's like the same thing with The Stand. This woman is important because she's pregnant. Like, I don't know. It's okay, buddy. He doesn't like when I get animated when I talk. I just don't know, bro. So I'm hesitant on it. The writing is lovely. The voice of the character is amazing. The conversations in it are already so good, and that was 6 pages. So here's where I have to decide, right? Here's my stack, and it's not that big of a stack. Altogether, we are under 700 pages. That's a lot for me to read in a weekend, but here's the thing. My boyfriend works till midnight tonight, probably. Maybe 10, but more than likely it's midnight tonight. And then he works, it's tomorrow Saturday, but he works Saturday too this week. They're on like a 60-hour week. It was a lot for a week, and I don't envy him considering my job gave me today off randomly. So which one? I'm going to go get myself some lunch, and I'm going to think about it. And I will let you know when I come back and make a decision. So I thought about it. I asked on Instagram. I think I'm going to go with Binti. So I thought I would get a little farther, but I ended up taking a nap and just not doing anything. So the first story is actually 56 pages. It's just the one called Binti, so it's just a short story. I liked it. I think there's still some weird things that the author does that were similar to where there's like random commentary on women's bodies that I'm just like, okay, why though? But other than that, I thought it was a good little story about like making connections and an allegory for the stealing of antiquities from other cultures to put in white museums. So I think that's mostly kind of what it was. It's a lot about identity and what makes you who you are. So I liked it for that perspective. So we're following Binti, who is a Himba, which is a race from Earth of essentially African humans. They use the red clay mixture on their skin. It's a big part of her identity. She has decided to go to this school called, oh my god, something uni. Uma uni? Hold on. I was right. I need to trust myself. Umza uni. As she's decided to go, she's going to be the first one of her race to go. She's incredibly smart. She's an engineer, mathematician. This is very Afrofuturism, which is pretty cool. So she's decided to go against her family's wishes. Goes on the spaceship. It's like a long ass flight to get there. And the spaceship is actually a living creature, which is pretty cool. So we got some like biotech stuff. And along the way, the ship is attacked and Binti ends up becoming a translator and representative of the group of aliens that attack the ship, which are kind of jellyfish-like. And she ends up having to translate to get an artifact of theirs back from Umza Uni, which is a university that the whole planet is the university, which is interesting. So, small planet, and houses people of all different races, species as well. So, but she's the first of her race from Earth. They are from Earth, to actually go. So we end with her being slightly changed by her adventure that she had and calling back her family and not knowing if her family is going to accept her. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. Okay, so I finished the second short story, and I really like how it talked about the trauma that she dealt with during the attack on the ship, and how she's processing it, how she's struggling to process it, how she's still having flashbacks, and how it's affecting her day-to-day life. And the more that I was like thinking about it as I was reading it, the more frustrated I was getting, because if you've seen my Iron Flame vlog, Iron Flame, is that right? Yeah. Then you know how frustrated I am with how little we're doing with that with Violet, and how important it should actually be to her character development and to the story and the course that it's taking. So seeing that done well here in such a short space really makes me frustrated for what could have been for the Fourth Wing and Iron Flame books. And I'm just like disappointed at the lack of good writing for a story that everyone seems to love so much. Like, they deserve better. And I'm just like, anyway. So I just thought about that, and I really needed to say it. So also we've got her friend group formed now, and I really love how inclusive it is. And yeah, it was a nice, cute story for it being one about trauma. It was good. So that puts me maybe 20-30% into this. So I've got two stories left that are longer than this one. We are having a lazy Saturday, but I have finished Binti. It took me overall, I started timing myself. So every time I was reading, I would turn on my stopwatch, and it took me about 5 hours and 45 minutes total of reading. So, which is like 353 pages. So that's not bad for me, to be fair. Overall, it was a really good story, though, about learning who you are, finding your own path, and conversations about identity, what that means in a social setting, what that means culturally, what that means personally, what that means spiritually, and how that can change and evolve as you grow. I think overall that was the main conversation of it. Finished this one. I think it's going in the unhaul pile. I really didn't enjoy it. It wasn't pleasant to read. It was disjointed and confusing. It's told from the perspective of a teenage girl going through a multifamily vacation that turns into a dystopian apocalypse, climate disaster story. But we're following the teenagers, and it's like written as if it's all happening in the moment. It's very tell, no show, super narrative. Confusingly written, disjointed. The characters don't necessarily understand what's going on, so we don't understand what's going on, and that can work sometimes, but it didn't work here. There's also some weird commentary on some stuff that was like a little ableist, a little racist, a little homophobic, and some of that was coming from the characters. I get it, and the characters were like shot down for saying it, but also like the person who was tortured first and the most is the only person who was described with olive-colored skin. So, there was some tropes in here that I didn't like. It didn't work for me. Climate disaster that I did like was Light Pirates down there. That one worked for me. This one didn't work for me. So, but I finished it in an hour and 50 minutes because I didn't like it. So I'm going to leave it down here. It's probably going to go in the unhaul pile. And I'm going to read Future Home of the Living God tomorrow. Okay, I've got my chores done for the morning. I still have some stuff to do left today. But we are starting the last book of the weekend, and I probably won't finish it today, but I might finish it by tomorrow. So, Future Home of the Living God. This is by the Indigenous author Louise Erdrich, and I already gave you the synopsis in the beginning of this. So, I'm gonna get started, and I will check in when I check in. Almost 100 pages in to Future Home of the Living God, and it's like everything a children's Bible was trying to do, but better and more terrifying. Okay, so it's a little dark out, but the dog needed a walk, so I thought I'd tell you what I'm feeling at the moment. So, Future Home of the Living God is post-apocalypse. Well, it's not post-apocalypse, it's mid-apocalypse. And it is kind of like Children of Men and that type of thing where like there's some sort of thing happening that's causing it to be difficult for women to have babies. And we're following a main character who's writing a journal for her baby. When shit hits the fan, she's 4 or 5 months pregnant. And she goes to this, like, she goes to her doctor's appointment. They're doing measurements. She's just asking, what the fuck is the, like, sex in my baby? And they're like, you need to run. And basically, she witnesses a woman getting kidnapped by the government in a parking lot. Hold on. Kidnapped. They're calling it the, like, is it the female gravid detention or something like that? And I was just like, oh, that is some words. We use gravid in terms of fish and reptiles. Things that are ready to lay eggs. So it's weird for me to see it with, like, humans. And it's, I mean, dehumanizing, which is the point. Hold on, let me see if I can get this brighter for you. I cannot. So we'll just have this really moody thing. So she ends up, like, hiding in her house. So this is kind of where we're at, and mild spoilers, but the postal service decides to fight the government, which I fucking love. Love the postal service. So that's where we're at, and I am unwell. I am unwell because people are starting their own military governments, and the one that just started is a union of the churches, and that is terrifying to me. So this is like a weird dystopian sci-fi that's almost horror-ish for me. I don't do well with pregnancy in general, and, like, this is just all of the anxiety, but in a good way. And the main character's voice is, I love her voice. She's snarky and sassy and serious and terrified all at the same time. She's perfect. I am unwell. Okay, it is Monday afternoon. I've got 10 minutes to go to meetings, so I'm going to quickly wrap this up. I finished, let me adjust this a little bit here. There we go. I finished this last night, Future Home of the Living God by Louise Erdrich. It was so good. I felt incredibly broken by the end. I feel like, okay, so I gave you the brief thing last night when I was on the walk with the dog. But basically what happened is, I can't, like, explain the rest of it really, but we continue to follow our main character, Cedar, up until the birth of her child, and it was extremely emotional, very dark, very, like, dystopian, almost a horror, like an atmospheric horror. It had, like, if you count Our Wives Under the Sea as a horror, this had that same kind of just kind of eerie, tense, uncomfortable. The stuff that was happening was like, we never had an explanation for it. We never learned about what was going on. We never saw the bigger picture. We never really saw past Cedar, because this is her journal. And I do love stories like that are from the person's perspective. Now, this is very similar to this. However, this did it better. Because, like I said, in this, we were following a main character. It was kind of like a journal because it was told first person in the moment, everything that was happening to her. However, there was tons of characters in here, and none of them were fleshed out. We didn't learn anything about them, weren't given any detail. The way that Louise Erdrich wrote about the secondary characters in here, they felt real, they felt lived in, they were authentic, like, to themselves. You could tell who the person was from the way that Cedar wrote about them in her journal. The way that our main character in here, Evie, the way that she explains the people around her are very bland. They're very white bread, vanilla, mayonnaise, whatever you want to call it, for something that has no flavor to it. Except for, like, the flavor would be, this person's homophobic. This person is a sexist. Like, that was the flavor, where this one was so much more nuanced. Even the people in her life that she didn't like were examined, and, like, had redeeming qualities or redeeming moments, and the way that Cedar interacted with the characters was so much better, like, so much more well done. this story hit me hard. I read it a little faster than I normally would have read something like this because of the topics it deals with are hard for me. I don't like pregnancy exploration. It is terrifying to me, so maybe that's gonna be my take of why this is a little bit more horrific, because pregnancy is already scary to me. It's already something I don't want to have happen, but then having to have it happen in a world like this where everything is falling apart and you are now a state commodity because you were pregnant is like a whole other level of terror and discomfort, along with everything that happens to your body along with it. Your body is already going through so much, and now you're going to put all of this stress and like fear and anger and all these other emotions on top of it. It's really well done. And it brought all these emotions to me to the forefront of my brain of like things that I've thought about before. Little brief interlude, I dated a guy when I was in my 20s who was like obsessed with like, I made bad choices back then, okay? He was obsessed with like apocalypse movies because his like, dude was weird. I made a weird choice. Don't judge me, just let me explain. He was like, oh, if I lived in an apocalypse, like I would want to like, you know, rule and all this stuff, and I would be such a badass. And I kind of laughed it off and I was like, yeah, sure you would. And he was like, oh, don't worry, I'd protect you. And I was like, no, you wouldn't. I was like, I wouldn't stay with you because I wouldn't trust you to actually treat me right in that scenario. Like as a woman being in the type of worlds for the movies that we were watching where women become property of like a very powerful man, and then there's like infighting and stuff about who gets to control the women, and the women are just sex objects. There's some examination of this, but it's not like as a women as a sex toy, it's women as broodstock. There's like an examination of that aspect of it, which brought to the forefront of my mind some of those things where now when I like meet someone, I'm always like, who would you be in an apocalypse? Like the things that happen to me that happened to you in your 20s really shape your perspective of people, I think. But I'm always thinking about that. And so this brought along like some of those like thoughts where I'm like, yeah, this is why I don't like apocalypse movies, because the shit that happens to women in them is like terrifying. It's not a fun experience for me to watch those. It's a horrific experience. So anyway, those are some random thoughts. Might edit them out. Felt cute, might delete later. So anyway, that's my thoughts. I managed to read 3 books. Where's my other one that I finished? Okay, so I managed to finish these 3 books. All of them, interestingly enough, had some examination of the role that women play in futuristic or dystopian societies. They were all very different in tone, they were all very different in tone and style. And I got a couple that I really like, and some new. I'm definitely going to look for more of Louise Erdrich. Definitely going to keep reading this author. Let me take a breath so I can say her name right. Nnedi Okorafor. I always want to add an extra syllable in there, and that is something I need to work on. So I want to keep reading 2 of those authors. This author, no, this book's gone. It's going away. So quick check-in. I had 10 books in the end of November that I wanted to read before the end of 2023. I had 8 books coming in to December, and now I have 4. This one here, don't let it fool you, it is 600 pages. They're just like vellum thin pages. So I'm gonna decide what I'm gonna read next. I'm putting The Once and Future King off until the very end, and I will probably do that with The Princess Bride as well, so I think it'll be between these 2. So I'll have to think about that today, but right now I need to go off to my meeting and talk about some salmon. So I will get this wrapped up, and I will check in with you later in the week about something else. So thanks for hanging out with me for a long weekend, and I'll see you soon.